Welcome to the Flower Nook. How may I help you? Well, we've got a lot of choices of plants. What did you have in mind, or do you need some suggestions? Well, this one is a great plant. It's in the Chinese evergreen family. Great low-light plant, easy care, will last for a long time in very minimal conditions. So that might be an option. We also have it in a different variety down here on the floor. This one is the Maria. Same sort of care and same sort of longevity. The other things that we might look at, the philodendrons, any of the pothos philodendron family, great easy care plants. This is a plant that you see after 20 years growing around the top of the offices. So very easy care, long life. Would one of those work for you? Another option, maybe you'd like to look at terrariums. Well, they've become very trendy lately and a lot of ways to do it. Do you have something in mind, or would you like to look at some of your options? Okay, let's go take a look at some of the options we can do. Let's take a look at some of the ideas for terrariums. One of the things that I might suggest, if you want something just for a small personal item, this little vase may be great. And I can see this with a succulent. Succulents are all over the market right now. Everywhere you look, people are doing succulents. So what I'd do to start a terrarium would be I'd choose some sort of material. In this case, because I'm putting a succulent in, I'm going to want something that makes me think of the desert. So I'm going to put some rock in the bottom, because when you go into the desert, that's what you see, is all sorts of rock. So I'm going to put a little bit of rock down in the bottom. I might go ahead and then add a little layer of sand. And when you're doing terrariums, you want to be aware that you really don't have any drainage in them. So you want to be able to build in some drainage. In this case, we've got rock, and now we're going to put some sand on top of that. And just shake that, that'll settle through. So that'll give us a little drain, a sink at the bottom of it, if you will. One thing that I like to do, I like to take a little bit of sheet moss. I've got some over here to the side. Let me grab a second. And I have wetted this so that it is very easy to mold, to form. I'm going to go ahead and put that down into the container, and I'm going to press it down. Now I'm going to take a little bit of dirt, and I'm going to put a little layer of dirt up on top of that. Take your fingers, if you're doing this at home, take your fingers and kind of make a center, if you will. I've got some great little succulents here. Let's kind of look at those and see which one speaks to me. I think I like this one. So we'll give this one, just tap it out of its, and that's what happens with a succulent. They're very dry. So as I have tried to tap it out, it fell apart. And it sits just a little high, so since we've already started taking some of that soil ball off, let's come on and peel some more of it off on the bottom. And then set it down in. Now the trick with succulents especially, really with any of the plants, but with the succulents, is to be able to get the material in to fill underneath without pouring it directly on the plant itself. If you get it on the plant itself, it gets to be kind of tricky. So I'm going to take my fingers, use them as a little bit of a shield to the side, and pour my sand. And I've got plenty of dirt down here for the succulent to grow in. So I'm just going to pour sand in and try to fill in that space underneath my succulent. And just rotate and keep pouring the sand in, trying not to get any more than we need to up on the plant. Really trying not to get any of it up on the plant. Once I've got that to where the level I want it, I can gently shake it, and that will help settle everything in. Now, this needs to have some moisture to help settle that down and into it a little bit, but you don't want to be very much water at all in it. I've got a spray bottle, And let me see how we're doing on here. Get a kind of a coarse spray out of it. And I want to come in and just spray around my succulent. And it's okay to get the water up on the succulent. That's not a problem to do. You can always tip it and let it run over a little. And you'll start to see, probably on the edge of the glass, you'll start to see the moisture as it goes down. So we're just going to do this and spray it a little bit, stop and kind of look at it, see what we think about it. I think that we've got a good start here. So I don't think I really want to do any more moisture on the plant itself. So here we are. We can pop the lid on, and we've got a great little gift for desktop, would work well on a side table, might work well if you wanted to put it in a window. You need to think about when you're setting a terrarium in the window that you have to be very careful not to have it in the full sun, or you'll cook the plant inside. It's sitting under glass, and so you don't want to have a whole lot of sun going into it. There are all sorts of little things that we could do to add a little bit of a little more personality to it. Well, let's think about doing this about as simply as we can. And that's where we look again to the Tillandsia, the air plants. They're great, they're all over the market right now as well. And an easy way to do a Tillandsia planter, this is the no-brain Tillandsia planter. I'm going to take some of my green sheet moss, and I have soaked this. And even if it's dry, if you buy this in a dry condition and you soak it, a lot of times it will start to grow because it's just been in a dormant stage. And so simply put that in. Because I've soaked it, there's some moisture in there, and the air plants love that. With an air plant, you want to be able to put a little bit of moisture in it. Loose like this, it's very easy to care for. You simply can take this out, put it in a bit of water, a container with some water, and let it soak for maybe 10-15 minutes, then pull it out and we'll put it back in. And all we're going to do is just put this air plant in here and put it underneath the dome. And there you've got probably the simplest terrarium you will ever make. Should hold up for a long, long time. Just remember to give it a little moisture. They do need some moisture. Let's move on and look at something more traditional in a terrarium. And I want to do something with a little bigger container. This one has some nice depth to it. That is good that you have some depth. Again, I like to start with some drainage in the bottom. And in this one, I'm going to choose some bigger rocks. And we'll just make lots of noise as we put the rocks in there. I'm going to put a good layer down in the bottom. So we've kind of filled the foot of this container, if you will. Now, one thing I want to do in this terrarium that I didn't do in the dry terrarium is I want to add a little bit of charcoal. And this is just an activated charcoal. It's if you're an aquarium person, you know this because you use this in your aquarium filters. So I'm going to take, maybe in this size of planter, a big tablespoon of it, and I just want to sprinkle it in to the bottom of the terrarium. You might ask, why would I do such a thing? Well, the reason is that will help keep it sweet. If you overwater it, that charcoal in the bottom will keep the water from going sour, and that's important. You don't want to open up your terrarium and be hit by this smell of sour, so that helps keep it from doing it. Again, I'm going to take some of my moss, and I just like this idea because it helps to set the stage, and I'm going to push that down into my terrarium. Kind of look at your piece and decide the shape you need. And if you don't get it right the first time, just tear part of it off and start over. It's very easy to do. There's no right or wrong with that, really. And now let's come and look at a little bit of dirt. I'm not going to add sand because I've got the rock for drainage underneath, and I don't think I really need sand in this case. So I'm going to put a little layer of dirt, of potting soil, and I like to use the potting soils that they have on the market now that have all of the wetting agents in it. They will hold water well, and they also have about 6 months worth of fertilizer. So when you're potting something up like this, you can do that, and you don't have to think about fertilizing for a half a year. And then when the plants start to look a little haggard, you might say to yourself, I wonder if they need a little something. Let's choose some little plants, and terrarium plants, these are a 2-inch pot size, and they are a specialty market. They're something that we get here in a flower shop. We're going to peel it off a little. You can see there's some roots starting to come out, and that's a good sign. This one is an alocasia. If you're familiar with elephant's ear, it's a member of that family. And then I want to add some color, so I'm going to choose some mixtures of plants here. A little airplane or spider plant, I don't know. I probably will stay away from that. I think I like this little bit of Irish moss, so let's try to pop that out. And again, crumble it a little at the bottom. This one doesn't show nearly the roots that the alocasia had. And we might even work with that to angle that in a little. I'm going to leave that alocasia to the center because I like the height of it. This is a little butterfly plant. Officially Nepthitis, I believe, although they may have changed the name on that. Botanists love doing that. They love to change the name after you get where everyone knows what something is, and they change the name so you have to start over again. Here's a little nerve plant. This is in the Phytonia family, and this has really great roots around the bottom, so we want to kind of break that up. Anytime you go to repot a plant, big, little, whatever size, and you see these roots wrapping around, you want to go ahead and gently pull those out of that circle and let it, as it gets into its new environment, then it will let those roots go back through the soil. Otherwise, it just goes in a circle, and that's not anything fun for it. And I've broken a leaf, so it's easier to pluck it off now than trying to reach down in after we get it planted. So we've got 4 plants in there. Maybe a little fern, because I'm feeling this is starting to feel lush, and nothing says lush to me like a fern. It just is a beautiful foliage. It's a little different shade of green, and it adds a lot of texture. So we've got, I think, a very good mix. We've got color, we've got unusual shapes, we've got a little bit of height in the center, and some things that are lower. So now the trick is to just go ahead and fill in between those plants. we're going to take, and I'm pulling the plants over to the side. I'm going to try to get my dirt down in between, and again, I've used this as an antique sugar scoop that has been with the shop for many, many years, really since Merle Griever, and maybe before that. And it's when I use it, I always think of Merle. Mr. Griever had the Flower Nook for 25 years and was a great mentor to me when I first got started in the business. So this is a little memory of mine. I'm going to pull this Irish moss back, or clubfoot moss, some people call it. I don't know that you'd really find it in Ireland if you got there, but that's one of the names it goes by here, is Irish moss. We're going to tamp it in a little as we go, and I'm going to turn again. Use your hand kind of as a shield, and we'll pull these plants back. Do that gently. One of the tricks to this, when you do these, sometimes it's a little tricky to get the water right, and it really is easier to do less than have them too wet and have to try to dry them out. So as we do this, I may just do a little bit of water, and then in the morning I would look at it, and like I showed you on the cactus, the succulent, then you can see on the side where the water line is, and then kind of decide, do I need to put more in, or does that work? If you see it sitting down here in the rocks, you have overwatered. So that can be a real issue, so don't do that. Like I said, in this case, it's easier to underwater and add a little moisture as you go. So let's take, I think we've got it pretty well seated in there, and we'll take our spray bottle and spray down and in. And this gets a little messy. There just is no way around it. It will be messy, a messy part of the process. But we want to moisten this pretty well, more so than we did in the other one. And then you have to hold the spray bottle up so it'll pump again. So I've got where there's spots where there's a little water standing on top, and I think that's okay for now because it will absorb into this potting soil very easily. The potting soil that I have is fairly dry, and so I think it will absorb into that very readily. And kind of come through, and like here I've got a little bit of dirt mixed up in the fern, so I'll try to use my spray bottle and spray that off so I don't have that dirt sitting on the fern. And at this point, we can start to see a little moisture making its way down. I still think that probably the best plan is to not overwater it tonight, check it tomorrow, and see what it looks like in the morning. Now I want to come back in because I don't really like the look of just dirt on top. So I'm going to come in with a little bit of this green moss that we started with on the bottom. And I'm going to pull my plants back and tuck that down in among the plants to help kind of make that a little more. It also will, again, it's like in the Tillandsia planter, the simple planter, it will hold moisture and it will help the plants regulate a little bit easier. We are with the fall, we will have, and I believe it starts with the first Friday in October, we will be having a terrarium bar set up in the store, and as you start to come back into the houses, fall's coming on pretty strong, and so as you start to come back into the house, it's time to look at the house and decide what it is that you need. This is a great way to bring a little bit of life back into the house. Come in and we'll have all sorts of containers, we'll have plants, we'll have all things for you to pick out and choose. Now back to, I said I like to add a little bit of personality to it. So I have this little faux snail, which I think is kind of a cute little bit, and I think I'm just going to sit him here to the side and make him look like he's trying to munch on that Irish moss. Let's take one last look, and there will be moisture on the sides. We're not going to worry about that. You know, you might take, as this dries down and you've got it where you think the moisture is balanced in it, might take a paper towel and wipe it on the inside to clean that glass on the inside. And then I think it's ready to put the lid on and let it go. Take a look the next day, and if it needs a little bit more moisture, do it. I think that's really what I have to present today, and I thank you for having taken the time to watch. Hopefully I've taught you a trick or two and inspired you to go green this fall. I'm Wayne DeBey, the Flower Nook in Salina, Kansas.